asatyam apratishtamte jagadahuranishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kimanyat kama haitukam. They say that this world is unreal, that there is no foundation and that there is no God in control. It is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. Yesterday and today we were discussing a little bit about relativism. Your name, I remembered it once and I forgot again. Vasilios is studying philosophy at which? Rutgers University, is it?
Yeah.
In New Jersey. So he's studying theology and philosophy. And his professor is a confirmed relativist, as modern philosophy is all relativistic. They consider anything not relativistic not to be philosophy. They consider it simply dogmatic. They say that these asatyam apratishtamte, what do they say? What do the relativistic people say? We can analyze according to this verse of Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken by Lord Krishna 5,000 years ago, long before all these various philosophies had come up, and even millions of years before. Of course, people in the modern world don't believe that there was intelligent life more than a few thousand years ago, and they don't believe that there's intelligent life west of Los Angeles or east of Baltimore, or maybe in Hawaii also. But these kind of theories are nothing new. Lord Krishna says here that those who are of demoniac nature, they say asatyam, there is no actual truth. Now, Bhagavad Gita is commented on by Shankaracharya, who praises Bhagavad Gita so much. But then his philosophy is Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, that spirit is real, but this world is false. Now here, in this verse of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Asatyam apratishtamte jagad ahur anishwaram. So here, the noun is jagat, and the adjectives are asatyam apratishtam anishwaram. That the world is not real, and has no ultimate basis, and that there is no supreme controller over it. So how Shankaracharya juggles Bhagavad Gita to mean that to fit with his philosophy, not Bhagavad Gita philosophy, but his philosophy, Jagan Mithya. Whereas here Krishna says that those who say that Jagat, the world, is asatya, which is a synonym of mithya, of false. Anyone who says like that falls under the category of the demoniac. Now this may be understood in another way also, that asatyam apratishtamte, that there is no ultimate truth. There is no ultimate basis of anything. Now persons who say this, according to Lord Krishna, which means according to fact, if we are to accept at all the Vedic knowledge, such persons are demoniac. But the modern relativism, there are various reasons why it has come up, and it's considered almost sacred by relativists, although if they were to be actual relativists, then nothing would be sacred, because everything's relative. That relativist means one who thinks that there's no ultimate values. Everything depends. What is true in one circumstance is not true in another circumstance, or what is correct in one circumstance is not correct in another circumstance. And so there's no ultimate principle. And any opinion is as good as another. Now, to some extent that's true. In the material world, circumstances dictate or influence what is proper and what is not proper. I've told this story so many times, I'll tell it again briefly because it's so instructive to the moralist, that Lord Krishna told this story that one man took a vow never to tell an untruth. He took a vow, and he was a brahmana, never to tell an untruth. So he lived at the edge of a village next to a forest. And one day, a man came running up saying, "I'm carrying a lot of money. Some thieves are chasing me. Where can I hide?" So the man pointed to, "You just hide in the woods there." A few minutes later, a gang of robbers ran up and said, "Did you see someone running past you?" He said, "Yes." He said, "He's carrying a lot of money. We want to catch him and kill him and take his money. Do you know where he is?" He said, "Yes." "Where is he?" "He's over there." So they went and killed him and took his money. So throughout his life he maintained his vow of never telling a lie. But when he died, he went to hell. He thought that I followed a vow and I never told a lie, therefore I'm very pious. But by not telling a lie in that circumstance, he became implicated in murder, in the sin of murder. So taking a religious vow is a very serious thing. And to tell the truth is also, obviously, it's a required quality in a human being. If one is untruthful, if one is addicted to untruth, or if one constantly tells lies, is cheating for his own self-interest, that is immoral, wrong. But in this instance, to have maintained it, even if he had maintained that vow for many years, in that instance, to not break his vow and to not tell a lie, he'd have said, "No, I didn't," or if he say, "He went that way," and point in the other direction. That would have been better. So, actually, even if he had broken his vow, from the point of view of taking vows, it wouldn't have been broken anyway. Because a vow is not, if one breaks a vow or does anything for a higher purpose, then that is acceptable. But this shows how, in this material world, concepts of right and wrong, they're always relative to the circumstance. So, there is relativism. This world is the relative world. And one reason this relativism has come up, of course there's a long history, but in the 20th century, dogmatic adherence to certain inhuman or anti-human theories resulted in Hitler was, by promoting what he promoted as an absolute principle. Germans are superior. Jews, gypsies, homosexuals require to be killed. And we're a superior race, therefore we require to conquer all the lands around us, because of dogmatic adherence to this doctrine, and because of intolerance of others, because of lack of respect for others, so many people were killed. And again, Stalin killed more people than Hitler. He was killing his own people also, those that didn't agree. And then again, it's probably worse than all of them, is Pol Pot in Cambodia. He wiped out about 30% of the population of his country. Only a small population. More than 1 million people in a country of less than 4 million, because of dogmatic adherence to, fanatical adherence to doctrine. So absolutism, or belief that we have got the truth and everything else is wrong, and we are right, and anyone who doesn't agree with that is wrong, and they deserve to be killed. So this absolute sway over others due to some wrong philosophy it's profoundly influenced the way of thinking of the world's people. So now they want to have multiculturalism and everything. We appreciate all different cultures and philosophies, and all different opinions are the same. It's an attempt to bring in harmony. That attempt was brought in the late 19th century in the field of Hinduism, where there are so many different opinions, and the supposed Paramahamsa, Ramakrishna, brought out the theory, Joto Mat Toto Pot. Actually, not only within Hinduism, but there are so many, between Hinduism and Islam, there was so much strife, regular riots, and also it was an attempt to that, all theories we should respect them all, and they're all good, and they all go to the same goal, Joto Mat Toto Pot. All paths lead to the same goal. So these are attempts to harmonize opinions and beliefs and differing outlooks, so that we can all live peacefully together. There's no one theory. The idea is that no one theory is correct, nor is it possible to say that anything is fully correct, because there's no ultimate principle. But Lord Krishna states here that by denying any ultimate principle, they become demoniac. Then they put their theory as the ultimate principle. You can't avoid, you may say that we accept all opinions as the same, but you can't avoid considering some opinion superior to others. If you have the opinion that all opinions should be respected, then you become very upset when someone says, no, we don't agree that all opinions should be respected. And we actually see that. The people who are supposed to be very liberal and open-minded, if you don't agree with them, they become terrible. If you don't agree that everyone's opinion should be heard, they become furious, and they try to put you down. Democracy, this is the idea. Everyone's opinion is equal. Why should it be equal? If there's someone who's well educated and understands the political issues at stake, their vote should be more valuable than one who votes just because they like the smile on the president's face, on the candidate's face. Yeah. Why should that actually happen? They reckon that in the I think it was 1963. It was recognized that the very close presidential race between Kennedy and Nixon came later. It was won because they reckoned on the last day, Nixon he was so busy, he needed to shave twice a day, otherwise little stubble came up. And in those days, little stubble wasn't considered very fashionable, so you should be clean shaven. So that little bit of stubble, because he didn't shave twice on the day, that came on the TV, and between that and the women liking Kennedy, who was more good looking and more smooth, they reckon that got him the votes. But nothing to do with any of the issues at stake. Just the impression of the TV. And then later on we had an actor come up as the president because he's a good actor. So why should the votes of people whose vote is based on the smile of the candidate rather than his policies, why should that be the same as one who's actually studied the situation and is making what should be considered an intelligent choice? So there's an example how it's incorrect to say that all people are equal, everything is all the same, but everyone's opinion is as good as anyone else's. Why should it be? If there's some problem in the plumbing here, and I give my opinion, should that be? I don't know anything about plumbing. Should that be considered as good as a plumber of 30 years' experience? Obviously not. There are specialists in every field. But then why, when we come to the field of religion or philosophy, all of a sudden, then everything is all the same, and everyone's opinion is as good as anyone else? This is called foolishness. So you can't say that was my opinion is as good as anyone else. In my opinion, your opinion is rubbish. So if all opinions are as good as any other, then you have to accept. We accept your right to say that it's rubbish. No, but you should accept. If you say that all opinions are the same, then you should accept not only the right to say that it's rubbish, but actually accept that it's rubbish. It's untenable. It's untenable. And if you say all opinions are the same, then you have to say that one person's opinion is that meat is good for health, and someone else's opinion is meat is bad for health, and you have to accept both of them. But you can't accept both of them because they're contradictory. So relativism is self-defeating. Or that well-known conundrum, someone says, I don't believe in anything. So you have to ask the person, do you believe what you just said? And he's caught. If he says, yes, I believe in what I just said, then he believes in something. If he doesn't believe in what he just said, then he's defeated. So, the idea that there is no absolute principle, they can't find anything, and so they say, well, ultimately there's no absolute principle. But this is, again, foolishness. They say the world has come into being by chance, but why then are you studying? If it's simply all chance, then why are you so busy studying the laws of nature, the laws of physics? How can you think that it all came? It's so complex, so ordered. And how can you say it comes into being everything comes into being by chance? How much did this cost? Anyone like to guess? Guesses. All opinions are as good as each other. $130. Who said that? Well, you're wrong. Actually, what happened, there was a pile of garbage in the back of a yard where I was staying, and one day there was a big storm and all the things blew together and it came like this. Yeah, absolutely free. Just came together. All the thrown out tin cans and some thrown out plastic and this and that, it all came together like this. Makes sense, doesn't it? Does anyone believe that? No. Okay, good. Well, if there are enough storms and enough garbage, it could happen one time, couldn't it? Think so? No. And even then, even if it were to happen, which it couldn't happen actually, it's too complex. If there's a little wire just in the wrong place, it's not going to work. If it's not designed, if it's not exactly as it's done, if it's not exactly according to the design, then it's not going to work. But even if you say that it came into being by chance, then who put the garbage there? Where did the ingredients come from? And how did the storm come about? So the idea that everything has come into being by chance, it doesn't make any sense. And it makes less sense on the cosmic scale. Obviously, if we can't accept it on the micro scale, then how can we accept it on the macro scale? If a little thing we can't accept it came into being by chance. Here's another thing. This came into being by chance. This little thing. This is a lot more simple than this, isn't it? It's very simple. And there's so many, I don't know what's in here. Some wires and some transistors and who knows what's in there. Some hard drive, I think it must be. Yeah, it must be. This is very simple. But even this, there's so much design and so much intelligence went into making this. Someone discovered steel and then different varieties of steel, what kind of steel is suitable for this kind of container, and how to find and extract iron ore, what kind of sources of iron ore are economically viable to mine, and then just getting exactly the right kind of steel, and it's not very thick and just the right thickness. So you don't want it too thick because what's the point? And it just costs more and it's heavier. You don't want it too thin, so when you pick it up, it just kind of crushes. And this, you see, the lid goes on very nicely. It's not too tight; you can lift it off easily, but it's not too loose that it just falls off. And even the water doesn't come out. Pretty good, huh? There's water in there. So it's very well designed. And then someone manufactured this for profit, and they had to calculate, is it viable to make this for profit, and then shipping it to wholesalers and then to retailers, and so much intelligence went into designing, producing, and marketing this. And how could it come into being by chance? If the formula is even slightly wrong, then after a few days of putting water, it'll rust. But I've had this for a few years. It's not rusted. It's good quality stainless steel. So how can anyone think that this whole universe came into being by chance? It doesn't make any sense. Although we can attempt to give theories. And in the modern world, we find that it's just, if you look at any encyclopedia, they talk as if it's a fact that the world has come into being by chance, and they talk about different ages of man, the Neanderthal period and all this Ice Age, and they talk as if they knew it for a fact. But there's no actual proof. And it's based on a theory, that's all. That everything, the world came into being by chance, life came into being by chance, although they can't even define what life is exactly by any biological or so-called scientific means. And if they're so scientific and they have so much brilliant brains and they have so much billions of dollars in research grants, then why can't they produce it? They say life is a product of chemicals. Then why don't they produce... There's a little fly buzzing around. How about producing a fly? Could you do that, Mr. Scientist? With all your research grants? They can't even understand how a fly flies. They can't... If they really understood, they should be able to make airplanes that run without fuel, right? I mean, the fly doesn't, you don't have to put in gas into a fly. The fly flies around, it just needs a little, someone passes out the other side. And of course, here in America, everything's very hygienic. But in many countries, people just go and do their daily self-cleansing process in a field. So, flies come, they get their fuel. How about making milk, Mr. Scientist? Why, all the trouble to keep a cow? Why don't you just get some grass, put it in a machine, and take milk out the other side? It'd be a good idea, huh? But they can't do it. So it's a lot of talk. But it's actually intelligent to accept that there should be some designer. There should be, and why does this world exist? If you see anything, there's a purpose, right? This was manufactured in a factory. It has a specific purpose for recording, playing back, and storing sound files, and you can also store all kinds of files on it. So it has specific purpose or purposes. It's alright, the fly's not so disturbing. Prabhupada said that flies are meant to disturb. That's its purpose in nature, to disturb us. What they get from flying around and crawling in your nose, I don't know, but they seem to like it. This was made with a specific purpose. You don't make anything without a purpose. If you invent something, someone invents something, you go to an inventor's fair, and you see there's some machine with pulleys, and lights are blinking, and every so often it makes a little noise, and the judges come around and say, hey, that looks like a really interesting machine. What does it do? What's the purpose? You say, no purpose. It's just, the pulleys go around and it makes noises and lights blink on and off. You say, well, what a stupid machine. What's the use? It's alright. If you do that, you'll be more of a disturbance to everyone else. So I appreciate, but better I be a little disturbed than I also be disturbed, because then I can't think. I'm not thinking very well anyway, but by the grace of Krishna we have to say something. So, there should be some purpose. We see that there is order in nature. Of course there are some modern theories, chaos theories, this and that. But even to study chaos, they have to study in an ordered way. If we have a disordered brain or disordered way of thinking, that is called madness. So even to study chaos, they have to study in an ordered way. So if there's design, if there's order, then there should be design. And if there's order and design, then there should be purpose. It's not a difficult thing to understand. But those who are demoniac, they reject this. They say there's no ultimate purpose. There's no ultimate truth. Any opinion is as good as any other. So they put human intelligence, they deify actually. They say that whatever we can conclude by our own investigations, whatever we can discover, whatever theories we come up with, that is the best, that is the highest. And it's interesting when they study philosophy that in the universities, they practically gloss over the whole vast body of philosophy that was in India long before the Greek philosophers, which are supposed to be the beginning of Western philosophy. They just They just don't accept that. Because actually, the Vedic knowledge, or what's nowadays called Indian philosophy, it has a basis. That there are different philosophies, theistic and atheistic, both. But the basis is the Veda, which is knowledge, that is called apaurushaya. It means that knowledge is not produced by any person. It is, actually Vedic knowledge is self-evident, but it's not evident to those who are unable to perceive it. It's just like, you can't say, who invented 2 + 2 = 4? No one invented it. It's a self-evident fact. And that is true of any fact. If a fact is a fact, it's a fact. And it's not a theory. So whether it's a very simply perceived fact, 2 + 2 = 4, or whether it's something very complex, E = mc², is accepted as a fact by people all over the world, although there's hardly anyone who can understand it. But if it's actually true, I can't say whether it's true or not, because I'm not a scientist, and scientist theories change all the time. So even though it's accepted as a fact at present, it might not be in future. And that's what relativism is, because they say that, well, the knowledge that we're acquiring, it's subject to further investigation and theories may change. But what is actually a fact is not subject to change. So 2 + 2 = 4 is a fact in this relative world. Even in this relative world, there are certain facts or truths. Although not everything is true in all circumstances. Another interesting thing is that what is true at one level of perception or one level of understanding might not be true at a higher level or a more subtle level. Just like it's easy to understand, if one has beginning knowledge of mathematics, that there can be no square root of a negative integer, because positive integers, when multiplied together, always give a positive result, and negative integers, when multiplied together, also give a positive result. So there cannot be a square root of a negative integer. But in higher mathematics, the square root of -1 is required for solving certain problems. So theoretically, it exists, even though it's impossible to hypothesize or imagine how it exists. So on a lower level or a basic level of what seems to be axiomatic, on a higher level, that lower level is overridden. So knowledge and truth are complex, no doubt. And to find out what is actually the truth, or what is reality, or what's going on in this world, has eluded man by his scientific and philosophical endeavors. And it appears that it will elude man forever. So that's by the empiric come rationalistic method, that we observe the world and we try to understand what's going on. And they can't come to any conclusion like that. And therefore they say that there is no ultimate conclusion and there is no ultimate truth. But actually this method of trying to find out the truth by one's own or by human endeavors is condemned from the very beginning in the Vedic system of acquiring knowledge, in which the 4 defects of human beings are pointed out. That Brahm Pramad Vipralipsa Karana Partav, that the tendency to be illusioned, the tendency to make mistakes, the tendency to cheat others and to cheat oneself. And imperfect senses. Because of these four defects, the endeavor to acquire full knowledge by human intelligence is from the very beginning doomed. Because we're in illusion. We tend to think that what is not a fact is a fact. And that happens that can happen at a simple level, that we mistake one thing to be something else. Mirage, on the roads in the hot weather you see water up ahead, but it's not water. It's an illusion. There was a famous incident in America in maybe the 1930s. There was a radio broadcast of George Orwell's, it was adapted from George Orwell's book, The War of the Worlds, in which it described an invasion from other planets. And that was adapted for American radio, and they described how the aliens are invading, they're in New England. And time to time they put in the broadcast that actually this is only a drama. But people took it seriously. And they started fleeing and panicking. They were in illusion. It was just a radio broadcast, but they took it seriously. So Brahm Pramad, imperfect senses. We examine the world and we think that what we examine is correct, but so many times we can see the senses are imperfect. I can't see what's behind that wall. I can't even see my own eyes. Or the sense of sight. All the senses, they're incomplete. The intelligence is also incomplete. In another way that's been said, Trividha Sima. There are three kinds of limits to everything we perceive. One is space. We are limited by space. We're limited by time. And we're limited by thought, or the ability to our ability to hypothesize or conceptualize is limited by our experience or everything we've heard, everything we've thought about. Krishna is described as Ulangita Trividha Sima. He is beyond these three limits. We can't imagine Krishna. We can't imagine what is beyond this material world. It's not possible. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That is the great mistake of so-called rational thinkers or empiricists. Rationalism and empiricism were previously opposing doctrines, but they've merged into one. So they presume that we can only accept the understanding of that which is within human perception and conceptualization. But that the very first or the very basis of that is irrational. Why should we presume that all of reality is within the scope of our perception and conception? Why? Why should it be? That means we put human intelligence the highest. They think if we can't see it, then it can't exist. Or it may exist, but we can't perceive it, so it doesn't matter to us. I remember when my one sister younger to me, When she was very small, she used to close her eyes and say, "You can't see me." She believed it. I can't see you, therefore you can't see me. So, we can't see God, therefore no God exists. This is childish. Show me God. The gauntlet is thrown down by the atheist. They show you God, but you think God has to come and dance in front of you, bow down? "Oh, I'm sorry, I exist. Please allow me to exist." God doesn't have to come. If He is God, then you should go to Him, not that He should come to you. And what makes you think that you're qualified to see God? Or that God is even perceivable by our mundane senses? Who believes in electrons? Electrons exist. Anyone? Aha. That's it. You believe, okay. Show me. Show me electrons. Who believes that mind exists? Show me the mind. That which is more subtle, the more subtle anything is, the more difficult it is to perceive or even understand. So, Spirit and the Supreme Spirit is the most subtle. It's beyond the gross material perception. There is a method to see God. That is possible by purification of senses. Because He's pure and not gross, then if our senses become purified and not gross, then we can begin to understand Him. Atashi Krishna namadi nabhavet grahyam indriyai Sivon mukhe jivado swayameva spurati adaha. He cannot be perceived by gross mundane senses, but He can be perceived by purified senses. And the purificatory method is to serve Him and chant His names. But those who demand, "Show me God," you can't show me? Okay, there's no God. It's childish, it's unreasonable. And it doesn't work. You can't see God like that. It doesn't mean He doesn't exist. Jagad Ahura Nishram, they say there is no controller. Prabhupada would so many times point out, you are controlled. You may say we are free, the land of the free. But who is free? We are not free from the laws of nature. We're not even free from the laws of the state. We're not free from the laws of nature. Some may say, I am free, but we're not free from the aging process, for instance. However much your food is organic and fresh, and you do yoga and take vitamin E tablets and all this, and still you're going to get old. You can't stop. We are controlled by time. Death, we cannot stop it. We're controlled. You can't even, when someone has to run to the toilet, the restroom, they call it, to let out their yesterday's breakfast. You can't control it. And somebody say, I'm God. We're all God. I got a damn toothache. I'm God. But got to run to the dentist. What kind of God is that? Everyone's God. Everything's God. In Patna, in Bihar, India, one man, I was speaking to some students on the street. This was almost 30 years ago. So I was speaking with them, and I was saying, Krishna is the Supreme Person. A man came up, he was listening, he became very upset. He was a demon. He said, how can you say Krishna is God? Everything is God. So I said, well, there were some pigs running around on the street. You don't see that in America. But people, they let their pigs out to graze on fresh stool and garbage and all the things that pigs like to eat. There were some pigs running around and say, well, do you accept that the pig is God? I said, why not? It's actually blasphemous. I said, do you accept that the stool, the What's an ordinary word for stool? Feces of the pig. That's also God? Why not? So, well, would you take that home, the stool of the pig, and put it on an altar and offer worship to that stool of the pig? So, why not? He's angry when I'm saying Krishna is God, but he's willing to accept that the stool of a pig is God. So guess what birth he's going to take? Worm in stool, worm in pig stool. This relativism, it's demoniac. It's denial that there is an actual principle. There is a person behind the absolute, behind the principle. But they don't want to accept, because if they do, then they would have to submit their intelligence to that. They have, like I say, they've deified human intelligence. Human intelligence is supreme. But they're not very intelligent, actually. We only accept what we can understand through our own efforts. It's foolishness. How much can we understand? We're tiny living beings on a tiny little planet. Our whole lifespan is a blip in time. And we like to say, we understand this, we understand all opinions are the same, especially my opinion. All opinions are good, especially my opinion. So, and if you don't accept that all opinions, no, I don't accept all opinions. Then they say that, but actually you have to draw a line somewhere. All opinions are good. So Hitler he had an opinion. It wasn't a vague opinion. It was a clearly delineated opinion. So no, all opinions are good, but Hitler's opinion isn't good. So you have to draw a line somewhere. There's no ultimate relativism. So this relativism, Buddhism has become very popular in the modern America, because it's all shifting. There's nothing ultimately to commit to. Traditionally, Buddhist monks are very austere, but it's neo-Buddhism. That you do what you like, you think what you like, and you just feel spiritual. What is spiritualism? You just feel spiritual. That's all. And there's no difference between spiritualism and materialism, because it's all just if you feel it's spiritual, then it's spiritual. But spiritual means to act on the platform of spirit. The first thing that Lord Krishna teaches in Bhagavad Gita is the difference between spirit and matter. There is a difference. And there's a difference between spiritual activity and material activity. Spiritual activity doesn't mean to reject the world, but to reject the attempt to enjoy it, but rather to see that Ishavassamidam Sarvam, everything is under the control of God. So it is our duty to serve Him. But in relativism, there's no duty. There is if you feel like it, but that's not duty. Duty doesn't mean it's a duty as long as I feel like it. There's no responsibility. Responsibility means you have to be responsible in all circumstances. There's no, in the modern way of thinking, there's no duty. People don't know. Therefore, they take vows. I will chant 16 rounds every day. And then afterwards, well, I don't feel like it. Because they have no sense of duty. You make a vow, you have to follow it. Of course, in the beginning of the lecture, I was saying that vows are adjustable. Of course, one has to understand the principle behind it. One duty can be superseded by a higher duty. But duty is there. That is called dharma. That which sustains. That which sustains our existence is our duty to the ultimate principle, who is God, Bhagavan, Krishna. So, this last Pope, John Paul II, he was very much against relativism and Buddhism, and the present one even more so. So they understand the principle that there must be an absolute principle. If you say everything is all the same, then there's no need of scripture. That's another symptom given in here, in the description of the demoniac, that they don't accept any scriptural authority. The same thing. Kimanyat kama haitukam. What cause is there? What principle is there in the world but lust? If they say everything is relative, so everything just comes down to human desire. If it feels good, do it. Then there's no duty, there's no higher principle. So the demons say, what is that verse at the end of this 16th chapter? That Ashastra Vihitam Gora. No, that's another verse. Oh. Ashastra Vidimutsuchak Bhautate Kamakarataha Nasa Siddhim Abhapati Nasukam Naparamvate. That they don't accept any rules of scripture. Just do whatever you like, however you like. If you like, you can follow. If not, you don't. It's up to you. Everything's up to you. Freedom. But the freedom should mean the freedom. There is freedom. There's the freedom to choose what is right and what is wrong. And if you, according to scripture. And if you don't follow what is right, then you're wrong. And there's a result for that. We see in this world, everything, that is the study of science. That a cause produces a result. What is the cause? They're looking for the cause. Why? Why does the sun shine? Why did the apple fall on Newton's head? He thought about it. And he said there's a cause. Gravity, the rotation of the earth produces gravity. So it's to find out the cause, but they say there's no ultimate cause to anything. There's no ultimate meaning to anything. There's no right or wrong. Ultimately, they say there's no right. If there's no meaning, if there's no God, there's no spirit, just we're living and you die and there's no, then the ultimate meaning what is the meaning to life? Just enjoy yourself while you can. Eat, sleep, drink, be merry and enjoy, for tomorrow we shall all be dead. So this is materialism. To not accept any ultimate spiritual principle. But that is foolish. To not accept that there is a principle behind it. There's so much order and it's all simply existing with no meaning. That we don't know the meaning, that is our lacking. But to say there is no meaning is foolishness and demoniac. So, what is the meaning? How can we find out? We can't find out by our own searching. Just like we can't find out by our own searching why the apple falls. Someone came before us and gave the reason for that. He could tell us. But to find the ultimate principle of the universe, well, actually Newton was, the latter part of Newton's life was spent in trying to show how science points towards God. He was a committed theist. So, to say that there is no ultimate principle, no right, no wrong, this is relativism. And actually this, I was saying earlier, Pol Pot, he studied in university in Paris under Jean-Paul Sartre, who said, my teachings, which are all his teachings and his personal example. He's a typical university professor, enjoying all the young girl students. Maybe that's harsh on university professors, but especially in this philosophy, when they have all this avant-garde philosophy. So he said, my teachings could be used in future to disastrous purposes. And just see, Maybe you don't hear so much about Pol Pot. You hear more about Hitler and Stalin because they killed Europeans and Pol Pot only killed Kampucheans, and who cares about Kampuchea? You see, if one American is killed by some terrorist in anywhere, it comes in the newspaper, big thing. And then in Africa they're having mass genocides, and it hardly took up this 3 lines in the newspaper. So this is relativism. All men are equal, but Americans are more equal than others. We are better because we have big universities where we teach all this nonsense. Everything is all the same. So this Krishna conscious movement is meant for establishing the absolute principle that everything has a purpose. That ultimate purpose is Krishna, God. The Pope, well, we can congratulate, he's against relativism, but then they should have some decent theology also. Now this intelligent design theory is smashing evolutionary theory. But then you come back, the reason why all this relativism in science and in human thought came about was because of the dogmatism of the church in making statements that couldn't be verified by empiric methods. The sun goes around the earth. They said, wait a minute, looks like the earth goes around the sun. And so the dogmatism of the church was thrown out. So if we have to get back to intelligent design and throw out evolution or chance, matter has come into being by chance, then we have to go back again to believing in the all-merciful God who, if you don't believe in Him, throws you in hell forever. I mean, they're bringing up intelligent design theory, which is good, but their theology is very weak. Or the explanation of human suffering is God. If God is all good, then why is there so much suffering in the world? Because long, long ago, the first woman ate an apple. So it's to say that it's weak theology is a compliment. So absolute principle is there, yes. But to understand God, we're going to require more theology than apple eating is the cause of all suffering, or the all-merciful God throws you in hell forever. For any reason, if He's all-merciful, then He should give you another chance, as many chances as you need. And therefore, yes, reincarnation. You suffer, if you do something wrong, you suffer, but you get another chance, and another chance, and another chance, until you get it right. He's not so cruel that He'll punish you forever. So these are some thoughts on relativism and absolutism. That absolutism has caused so much chaos in human societies because people have believed absolutely in that which is not correct. So if humans are actually philosophical, they should find out that which is correct and believe in that. But their inability to find that which is correct has led them to believe that everything is correct, everything is good, or nothing is correct. There is no ultimate principle. So this Krishna conscious movement is not based on dogma, that this is the right path and everything else is wrong. We can accept if there's something good in any line. And yes, we do say this is the best. But we don't, but not just because we say so. God has, if we accept there is God, and it's not very intelligent not to accept that there is God, then we should understand. He's given us intelligence, and He's given us books of knowledge which are to be understood through intelligence. Someone had an apple. Life's tough. Hare Krishna. Is there any question about this, please? Question or comment or whatever. Of course, these are basic principles that those of you who are coming regularly, you might think, well, we already know this. I was introduced, I'm going to speak some Krishna Katha, so you might have thought I'm going to tell some stories or Krishna dancing, which is nice, but it's good to get our basics in order. We're surrounded all the time by a fog of relativistic thinking, which impedes the clear understanding of Krishna consciousness. So, we should understand this.
I just want to know what empiricism is.
Empiricism means the idea that we can believe in what we can perceive. What we see, touch, smell, taste, feel and hear, and to some extent the conclusions we draw from that is empiricism. That is the basis of modern science. Pratyaksha. In Sanskrit, that's called knowledge received by sense perception. Yeah.
How much can we...
I'll just make another point about that this is stated in the Vedic law, Lore. And there's analysis of different methods of receiving knowledge, and it's the epistemology of the Vedic epistemology. It's a vast study, and the Vaishnav schools, or not only by all the scholars of Vedanta, which means Vaishnav and Mayavad, they accept Shabda, the authority of the Veda, all the Vedic schools. And so it's interesting, and you see Krishna saying, asatyam apratishtam te. It's not new, all these theories that have come up. They're perennial theories that go on and on in human society throughout the ages, because the endeavor in the material world is to forget Krishna. But at the same time, we want to think that I'm good, I'm right. And so philosophy is actually the etymological root of this word is the love of truth. But truth means Krishna. And if we don't want to love Krishna, then we have to present untruth as truth. So philosophy in the material world means love of all those theories which are actually untruth, but we like to accept it as truth because we like to be in the illusion of forgetting Krishna. So it's not a search for truth. It's a search to... Philosophy means a search to... In the modern world, or not only in the modern world, throughout history, philosophy means a search to try to give understanding without understanding the absolute truth or the ultimate truth. So to say that everything is relative, or to accept as an absolute principle that which is not actually the absolute principle. Self-delusion, it's called cheating. Remember I said there are 4 defects of the conditioned soul? One of them is cheating. Self-cheating is also there. Deluding ourselves. Yeah.
You kind of answered it already. I was just going to ask, how was it that even 5,000 years ago when Krishna was on the planet, people had these...
It goes on forever, as long as we don't accept Krishna. Because we want to be cheated. We want to forget Krishna. So therefore we have an elaborate philosophical system which seems right. We like to accept it as right. Give him some prasadam.
No, he got hurt a bit.
Is it?
Yeah, there's abrasion on his knee.
Doctor! You're a practicing doctor. He's a retired doctor. But he knows how to look after abrasions. He'll never forget how to treat abrasions on knees, because
I got two-part
Pretty
question.
simple. Two-part question.
One
Okay.
is about Shankaracharya. You mentioned about
Shankaracharya, yeah.
You mentioned about it that he is fond of Bhagavad Gita, but then he twisted it, telling that the
Brahma Satyam
world is-
Jagan Mithya, yeah.
world is asatya or mithya or maya. What made him to do that?
What made Shankaracharya to do that? Well, he is Shankar. Shankar. Sham means auspiciousness, and Kar means one who makes. So, one who makes auspiciousness. But this Mayavad is Mayavadam Asat Chastram. It's not Sat. It's Asat. It's inauspicious. It's wrong. It's bad. But he did that on the order of Lord Narayana. That inauspicious philosophy was required to supplant the even more inauspicious philosophy of Buddhism, which is practically the same philosophy. But the Buddhists don't accept the Vedas. Whereas Shankaracharya speaks, it's Prachannam Bodham Uchyate, it's covered Buddhism. But he established, for bringing auspiciousness, some auspiciousness in a more inauspicious situation, he re-established the value of the Vedas. And then later, Ramanujacharya and even more so Madhvacharya said, okay, you accept the Vedas, but that's not what the Vedas teach, and cut his theories to pieces. And so if you accept the Vedas, you have to accept Hari Sarvottama. Lord Hari is the supreme, above all. So he did it. It's a long purpose. There are various reasons also. Another reason is because it's Kali Yuga, and people in this age, they're born in this age because they want to be sinful. So he gave a philosophy which facilitates that. Although the followers of, if you're strictly following, then you have to be very austere. But what happens is that because there's no ultimate principle, then why bother to follow anything? Then kimanyat kama haitukam. What else is there but lust? So let us just enjoy ourselves. The modern idea is that there's no ultimate duty. Whatever feels good, do it. That's why I say homosexuality is good. Why not? It doesn't do any harm. If having sex with other people's wives, there's no harm. If they're agreeing and it makes you happy, then no harm. Because our own personal sense enjoyment is put at the highest level, because they don't know anything higher. There's no ultimate principle. So my own happiness, that's the ultimate principle. I'm married for 30 years. I have 4 or 5 kids, but I don't like my wife anymore. She's old and ugly. So get in, throw her out, get a new one. What does it matter? No ultimate principle. So it's to increase the sinfulness of this theory actually increases the sinfulness of Kali Yuga. It facilitates that. Okay, what's the second part of the question?
Second is the Ramakrishna mission. A lot of followers on that, and you said...
well, what is there to follow? If you say Joto Mok Toto
well,
Pat,
that's what I'm saying.
if all paths are the same, then what is there to follow?
The question is...
whatever you do, according to them, everyone's their follower.
No, but the mass of people...
according to the
don't know
Ramakrishna
Veda.
mission, everyone's their follower, because all the paths are the same, and Ramakrishna said it. But we don't say that. We kick in their face. It's rascaldom. Joto Mak Toto Pak. All the paths are the same. Then Krishna says, he doesn't say that. Lord Krishna says, Sarvadhaman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Raja. Just the opposite of what Ramakrishna says. So he's opposite of what Krishna says. And he worships Kali. And Lord Krishna says, Kamaistai Hridagyana Prapadyantenya Devata. Anyone who worships all different gods, their intelligence is spoiled. So according to Bhagavad Gita, his intelligence is spoiled. So we don't accept his rascal theories. To demonstrate all paths are the same, for some time he followed Christianity and Islam, and he ate beef, because, good Muslims should eat beef, and he's coming from a Brahmin family. So, we don't accept. He's caused so much chaos in the spiritual life. Him and his chela, Vivekheen Swami, another rascal, with his Daridra Narayan. He wants to convert Lakshmi Narayan to Daridra Narayan. Simply rascaldom. Narayan means all opulent, and he wants to make him into a poor man. The poor man is God. Then I'm more than God, because I'm not poor. We shall feed the poor man, and this way we shall serve God. Then I'm more than God. So we don't accept all this. Simply cheating. There is right and there is wrong. Relativism is another relativist. In relativism, there's no fixed right or wrong. That may be true on the material platform to some extent. I gave that story of the man who should have told a lie and didn't. But there is an ultimate principle. Why do we even feel there's right or wrong? If we're simply products of matter, if ultimately there's no difference between me and a microphone, that's made out of chemicals, and I am made out of chemicals, then where does the sense of right and wrong come from?
Well, how do you deal with such people who think this way? How do you...
Who think like this? Well, you can. That's why we're discussing. You can discuss like this, but they're very tricky because they. If you can go through all the arguments, and when they have nothing left to say, they'll say, "Well, it's all words." Then why are you talking? So I've had this experience so many times. You take people logically, step by step, point by point, and when their theories are totally defeated, then they say, well, anyway, it's all words. Then why are you talking so much? If it's all words, then why did you talk with me at all? If words have no, they say ultimately words have no meaning. Then again, you just said words have no meaning. Did your words have any meaning? Then why are you talking? Why talk at all? Just shut up. When your words have no meaning, but my words have meaning. Because my words are connected to the words given by Lord Krishna, who is the ultimate meaning. The thing is that you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. If someone insists on keeping their eyes closed, then you can't tell them, you can't show them the light. If someone insists on closing his eyes, or just like in the room, someone has the curtain closed, and they say, come on, it's time to get up, it's time for work, time to go to work. And he says, no, it's still dark. It's only dark because the curtain's closed. But he wants to pretend it's still time to sleep because he doesn't want to go to work. So he can pretend, but he loses his paycheck for that day because he slept, or he may get thrown out of the job altogether. He can pretend it's still time to sleep, but it isn't. So it's self-delusion. This Richard Dawkins, he what did he call that? The gene? What's gene? He wrote a book called I can't remember exactly. So his theory is that we say, the theists say, that belief in God that it is a natural propensity in all cultures, suggests that there is God. Communism in the USSR, they attempted to quash belief in theism, but after several generations, it should have been just completely quashed, and there should have. If atheism is rational and intelligent, then after several generations of teaching it in Soviet schools, there shouldn't have been any vestiges of theism left. But actually the Russian people are very much theistically inclined. Russian and other parts of the Soviet areas. There was tremendous interest in various churches and theistic doctrines as soon as Glasnost came in. I mean, it was there. So it should have just gone out. But Richard Dawkins, a modern scientist, what's that called? There's something, I can't remember the name. But his theory is that it's a rogue gene that entered the human makeup at some point early in evolution, in evolutionary development, and some people have this gene which makes you believe in God, and it's actually an aberrant gene, and he hasn't defined the gene, where it is, which gene it is, how it acts. It's just his imagination. We could say there's a gene in his system. You could just as easily say there's a gene which makes you an atheist. So, but the fact that people everywhere, there's a tendency to believe in a higher being, suggests that there is one. And that some of the most intelligent and principled persons in history, they've been staunch theists, also suggest that it's not unintelligent to believe in God. In fact, in the Indian ethos, so much discussion at such a level on the philosophy of God, most people nowadays can't even begin to follow it. If we're talking about Shankaracharya, how Madhvacharya and Ramanujacharya, how they defeated Shankaracharya, and the level of their discussion, most people can't even begin to follow it. You have to learn Sanskrit first of all to even enter into it, and that Sanskrit language requires much intelligence to even enter into. Anthropologists say that you can understand the level of development of a culture by the level of development of its language. So Sanskrit is by far the most complex language in the world. It's not unnecessary. It's actually very straightforward. Its complexity is necessitated by the level of knowledge that it discusses, although actually it's a very scientific language. It's the language which is most suited to computer applications because it's so systematic. But that's not a language that's developed in recent years. That's the most ancient language known in the world. And because they want to deny that that's the original language, then they've invented, linguists have invented a Proto-Indo-European language, which they have no evidence of whatsoever, just based on their linguistic theories. They say Sanskrit and all other languages develop from that. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Yeah, Mr. Philosopher. You're only a what? Sophomore? Is it?
No, I should come see you, but
You took a year off, okay. Don't take a year off from philosophy. Take your whole life off from that kind of philosophy. But real philosophy, we should live with it every moment. Philosophy is not something for the classroom. Real philosophy is to be lived with. Philosophy is something to live by. It's not just some kind of theory. Yeah, so what have you got to say?
Modern science looks at the world by trying to reduce it. They try to reduce everything. There's a method that
Yeah. They try to explain everything, the complexity of the universe, in as simple terms as possible. But they've been, the last almost 100 years, they've been running around chasing their tails. With quantum theory, which doesn't coalesce with, it doesn't harmonize with relativity theory and all the implications of it. They still haven't come to terms with it. it resists simplification by its very nature. Yeah, then?
They assume that to do something. So they assume their method, they mistake the method for the actual use.
Oh, yeah, well, actually, we have no problem with that. What's that? Occam's razor? That the best explanation is that which is the most simple, clear, and direct. So we have no problem. But why don't... The most simple, clear, and direct theory of the existence of everything, and you can fit all scientific discoveries into it, is that there is a supreme controller and designer who willed this into existence. It's the best theory. You won't find any scientific theory that defies that. It all fits in there. But they don't want to accept because they're demons. What can we say? It's the greatest theory. It's the one theory that everything fits into. But one thing is that God, He can't be defined simply by mathematics. They have presupposed that everything should be explainable by mathematics. Why? Why should the smell of a rose be explained by mathematics? Why should the pleasure we find in that be explained by mathematics? It's an unreasonable presupposition, that's all.
So modern science actually, logically, their theories actually prove that a bumblebee can't fly.
Yeah, a bumblebee shouldn't be able to fly, according to aeronautical theory. And you see in India some of those flies, they shouldn't look like they fly, and it looks like they have difficulty. You know? They have little spindly wings and big long body. Those ones that come out in the rainy season.
Again.
Well, their whole body looks so clumsy. Somehow they're flying. Doesn't look like a chicken should fly either. They don't fly much. They'd do a lot better if they did. They could fly away from their prisons where they're tortured so people can eat them. So you can go to the church on Sunday, and as we were driving yesterday, said, everyone welcome. Sunday, traditional family style chicken and ham meal on Sundays. Poor chickens, poor pigs. I think we should finish. It's getting a little late. You have prasadam? Okay, great.